Hi. My group of friends, a 30-year-old men, have a multi-year Dungeons & Dragons adventure going. This Sunday, there's a small scene where we encounter a beautiful, naked priestess, and I thought it would be fun to have an actor play the part. It would require you to be topless on our virtual Zoom, so obviously you have to be comfortable with that. Our session starts at 4 p.m. this Sunday. The one trick is, I don't know exactly when we will encounter this priestess, but it will be at some point between 4 and 6 p.m. ET. Ideally, you could be available in the time, and then I can text you the precise time to join the Zoom link. The actual scene won't be more than 5 minutes, so it won't be much time acting. I'll provide some guidance on the part beforehand. Feel free to reply with any questions. Also, if you could include a picture with your reply, that will be helpful. Thanks.
This is why we don't go to Craigslist. Wait, he's paying $100? Hell, if it pays, sign me up. I'll shake my tail feather and lore dump some players on Zoom for $100.
Hey there, tall, strong adventurers. Let me do some yoga stretches as I explain to you the 37 confluences of the planes.
My name is Jacob Crowe, and welcome to the Crow's Perch. In today's story, a chaotic problem player begins a laundry list of horrible offenses, including the genocide of a town, in an event known henceforth as the Pet Drider Incident. And just to give you a quick recap as to what a Drider is a dark elf transformed from the waist down that has the body of a spider. Kind of like a centaur, but more creepy. Or at least it's supposed to be. That won't stop DeviantArt though. So without further ado, let's save the last drips of OnlyFans content into a flash drive that you hide from your wife, labeled vacation photos. And let's gather up a murder and get right into this story. I preface this by saying I hold no ill will for the player, but after half a year, I am still confused about the Pet Drider incident. The short story is that our player was a good person, but not very bright. On the youngish side too, I think. So we tried to keep our kitten gloves on, to protect him from consequences, most of the time. He adopted a Drider, and I allowed it, because I didn't want to squash his creativity. He then genocided a town because people got scared of him, bringing a Drider into it, and fired at him. Not that a level 14 Paladin takes any damage from a commoner doing that. He then got arrested by other Paladins for genociding a town with fire, but I didn't want to kill his character, so they just locked him up. I say they're too scared to deal with him, so they just lock him in a wine cellar and leave him to evacuate the survivors. He doesn't seem to understand that they plan to come back, and after waiting 3 days, he eventually tries to break out. I've made it very easy. It's just strength checks to move shift, but no. He wants to use Firebolt, not Ball, the cantrip Firebolt. I explained tactfully that perhaps using a fire spell in a methane-filled environment, he broke his way into a slurry can instead of moving it, wouldn't be a good idea. But no, he wants to use fire. I decide not to explode him. Because again, I don't want to penalize someone for being stupid, and this guy thinks carrots are a country. Wow, that's a sentence. I explained to him that he can just move the can, since he has literally emptied its contents into the cellar. No. Flock you. He wants to use Firebolt. I probably should have just dropped it. But I was worried about the precedent I would set by saying Firebolt could do this. I explained to him that in the time it would take to use Firebolt that many times, he'd heat up the can he was in and cook himself. I also wasn't sure how he actually was going to get out without burning himself, if he was planning to melt a can that he was in. The player invites a random person to our server. It's Westmarches, so no big deal. For those of you who don't know, a Westmarches server is pretty much like a big open-ended campaign with usually several DMs, who each play with their own groups, but in the same world. Hey, if I get enough patrons, I might do the same thing myself. But anyway, back to the story. But I'm still kind of like, well, that's weird, because this server is ending due to pandemic. We're just tying up loose ends and role-playing. New guy is a prick. New guy doesn't realize the DM roster is present with 2 physicists and 2 chemists. He goes on to explain that all fire is plasma, and that if a firebolt could kill a commoner, it could cut through metal. I argue that that isn't a good metric, because if my character bit a commoner on the hand, they would die. The arguing goes on. New guy is either trolling, or some sort of flat earther level of stupid. And after 90 minutes, I'm just like, you may not burn the can. There are many ways to get out of the can. A firebolt is not one. I'm tired of the convo. Not the most eloquent, I know. New guy wants to make a character. Okay, sure. I'm in the background with the other DMs, saying we should wait for him to break the rules before we dismiss him, because this might just be a bad first impression. I was wrong. God, I was so wrong. More arguing, and just essentially being whiny and entitled for another 40 minutes. Get the distinct impression that my character is trying to impress this guy, because he's acting entirely out of character and being a caw. Huh? Did that work? Who still unironically says that word? What is this? Australia? And now on to the kobold controversy. It starts off with him wanting to make a kobold, but not wanting to have the minus to strength. I'm like, sorry, you'd need a really good reason for that. But why not just put points in strength? By the way, the guy wants to play a wizard kobold, so it's not like this is a problem anyway. Ooh, we got receipts. Okay, this guy's gonna be a kobold, so I gotta give him a kobold voice, right? Ooh, got it. Maldo.
Well, if you use an old kobold, it should definitely get a buff. It's one of like the 2 races that get a penalty. You get a 0 overall stat adjustment.
There's other races to play.
But gnome, halfling, and goblins...
Okay, he typed it like that. I'm just gonna keep it like this.
But gnome, halfling, and goblins don't get punished in the same way.
We really don't optimize on here. This is more a roleplay heavy server.
Why just make a race bad to play though?
I didn't make it.
It logically makes no sense. Okay, but you can fix it.
Okay, not gonna lie, I completely agree with him. If we're saying that kobolds should get a -2 strength penalty just because they're tiny, there are plenty of other tiny races that should get that same penalty. He keeps arguing that no other race gets penalized, and I should fix kobolds. I'm trying to explain that kobolds are the smallest guys, and that's why they have a strength debuff. Also, we have a kobold player, so changing things for you would be unfair on them, because you just get a better kobold. We have homebrew races, so why not make one? And we can vote on it. But no, fuck you. I want kobold.
You no take candle.
My player then starts to argue that I played a vampire in our Westmarches server and didn't have sunlight sensitivity. I point out that the race I played was the Ixalan vampire from the Magic the Gathering supplement, which didn't come with sunlight sensitivity, and was easily the weakest race on our entire server. Me. Okay, my character has sunlight sensitivity now then. Like, I literally don't care. I trust the DMs on the server to make content engaging either way. He literally tries to argue that the trash race Ixalan is better than a real vampire. Everyone present laughs at him. Like, I can't even characterize what a terrible race Ixalan is, but essentially none of their skills can ever be used, unless you've already won a fight. It's pure flavor, whereas real vampires get magic, and walk on walls, and have resistances, and turn into animals, and stuff like that. Receipt number 2. It's literally from the Ixalan supplement. It's a terrible race. I didn't even function until I got a magic item.
But better than being a real vampire.
No, really not.
It's actually better than having all the flaws of a vampire.
My character literally has a bite attack.
You don't die in the light.
That I have to grab people to use.
I'm just saying, why is it fair to only nerf everything?
I don't die in the light because the race that I use for my vampire are actually just crazy people. At this point, I've had enough. This isn't the first time this player has invited absolute ducks to my server without vetting them. We literally had a thing called the Noodaloo rule, named for one of the player characters that he had invited onto the server. This came about because the last person he'd invited had made a homebrew telekinetic rat race, and then threw a tantrum when people didn't know which person she was telepathically talking to, resulting in the wrong people answering her. Other DMs are getting involved at this point because the new guy is speaking to me like trash, and I'm getting frustrated. Guy starts getting belligerent with me and says the wrong thing. Other DM just stops trying to de-escalate and is like, yeah, no, kill him. Here's a couple snippets of their conversation. I'm sorry. What are we just talking something out? I know, but the server is virtually dead, and I like the chemistry we have here, and your friend's attitude is shift, and I like this place. Bruh, you're being inflexible. Yes.
I don't see what the issue is. He's just asking for something he thinks is reasonable. He found a solution.
That's not me. It's you.
Now he's doing something you find okay, and he finds okay.
Nope. He isn't just asking. He's been here 5 minutes, knows nothing about the world, and is birching.
Asking questions.
I literally asked a question. And I'm sure he can be great, but Noodaloo, Phonix, that flocking wizard guy with the shop, you said give me this, not can I have this. Ooh, there's a fourth guy. Drama. I'm not doing this bullshit again when people come in with these red flags.
It's a little different. He's being blunt. Nothing more. It's not like he can force you to do anything.
Because I'm always like, oh well, they haven't technically broken the rules. And then we can get some Birch screaming and crying.
Kick him when he breaks the rules.
It would be different if he played something and asked for a buff and came up with an in-character reason, etc.
Because you're literally insulting him.
One, fuck you. Oh my god, I love this guy. Yeah, I'm on the kobold guy's side now.
Yup. This is what happens when you insult someone and they can't do it back.
I am. He's having a duck measuring contest with a girl. It's pretty easy. 2. I asked a legitimate question.
And he's been kicked for insulting you after you outer insulted him. Talk about an echo chamber.
Also, I love him telling me that I'm thick, inflexible, unfair, and birchy isn't an insult. But me saying he's birching is totally out of order. Anyway, I kicked the new guy. Because like I said, it's the end of the server. We're tying up loose ends. I like the chemistry. The original player stays around for a week, then tries to turn his character into the police for a fair trial. Me, you genocided a town. You know this would end your character, right? Him.
It was self-defense.
Me. Self-defense relies on the appropriate force being used. Him.
They shot me first.
Me. They did. And if you just killed the guy who shot at you, I'd maybe agree. But you destroyed an entire town with fire. Him.
You don't understand anything about feudal law.
Me. I feel like the self-defense laws of that era would be even more against you. He fights for a bit longer as we try to talk him out of suiciding his character via a rural mob rule legal system, that's a tongue twister, and then gets huffy and quits. Genuinely really liked the guy. Outside of game, I'd offered him money to make his rent, and we, the DMs, had helped him with studies and nutrition and stuff. So, it did suck that it ended how it did. I'm pretty sure he was literally just trying to impress that older kid too, which sucks. Ooh, this story was spicy. This is why you always bring your receipts. Like I was saying earlier though, I do think the DM was being a bit unreasonable. Like I get you're winding your campaign down. You want to just finish up with what's going on. So, don't bring in new players. Like you put your foot down after the fact but by then it was already too late. Also, I'm firmly in the camp of, if your player does something stupid, well, flock around and find out. I don't know, you're not an asshole if your player's actions have consequences. If he's in a tunnel filled with natural gas, and he tells you that he's going to cast Fireball, and you tell him no, that's a really, really bad idea, and he's like, "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me! Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me!" Let him blow up. Hopefully his next character doesn't make that same mistake. Especially if none of the other players will suffer from that consequence and it's just him. I see no reason as to why you shouldn't just blow him up. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, that's it for today's story. And if you liked today's story and would like to see more stories from this channel, be sure to subscribe. I would also like to make a special thank you to the Crow's Perch patrons. First, introducing our counts of Quills, Haley, Zerofang, and Netscape. And of course, who could forget our barons of Beaks, McYeetly, MalkavianMilkBalls, and Anja. And introducing the first of his kind, Acroth, Duke of Feathers. Thank you so much for supporting the Crow's Perch, and welcome all of you to the Burb aristocracy. You too can become a patron by making a donation on the Crow's Perch Patreon. It helps support the channel, and it nabs you a nice little Discord nameplate on the Crow's Perch Discord. Links for the Discord and Patreon down below. Unfortunately, I don't have an Art of the Week this week, but I would urge you to check out the Crow's Perch art channel. It's really been popping off lately with people's original characters, Den of the Drake convincing Novotonix to draw a bunch of dinosaurs, and a lot of other stuff. But anyway, I'll see you all next time, as the crow flies.